It's another Wednesday night. Here we are. It's nofilter.net again. Snipes and Stripes with my buddy Tim Peel. Buddy, I'm telling you, I don't know about you, but I actually really get excited about Wednesday nights because there's so much going on in the course of a week. And during the weekend, I sit there, I'm like, why don't we have a show on Saturday night? Because I could talk to Tim Peel. We have to get on with all of our fans. We got to talk about everything that's happening in the National Hockey League. There's so much stuff going on. And here we are, Wednesday, Snipes and Stripes, middle of the week. Everybody, thank you for joining. We really appreciate you being here. Nofilter.net, where you as the fan can come on and join our show by hitting the knock button in the corner. I'll be sure to reach in there, see who's coming on. We have a chat line. We'll answer some of the questions on the chat line. And Tim Peel, my partner in crime, one of the best referees in the history of the National Hockey League, and I will say that from myself. How you doing tonight? Everything feeling good?
I'm great, buddy. I'm pumped. We got our first coach fired of the year, fired this year. We've got teams that were out of the playoffs a week ago today that are back in the playoffs. We got a lot going on, so I'm ready. Let's do it, buddy.
Well, again, this week's show is now sponsored again by my Whiskey in the Wild, which I will be drinking a little bit of my whiskey tonight, and Bet Online, one of the best places to go find your best odds and the best place to play your favorite games of the night. Bet Online remains your top spot for your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. Bet Online is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All hoops action, along with sports available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile devices are accessible. Head to Bet Online today and remember to use your promo code BLEAV, B-L-E-A-V, for your 50% welcome bonus at your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game begins. Goodness, that's what we're going to do. We are going to pick some games at the end of the show tonight. We have been, I think, red hot. I think we both won our picks last week, so we will give our picks at the end of the show. Maybe for Thursday or maybe Saturday, we'll make a decision. But for sure, we're going to pick some winners that you guys can go for Bet Online to make sure that you win some money, put some money in your pocket. Tim, where are we starting first tonight?
We are starting with our first coach fired this year, and Jay Woodcroft. I don't think it's a surprise to a lot of people. I don't think it's a surprise to you and I. Maybe a surprise in the sense that the players and certain players.
Hold on a second. Tim, we just got our first coach fired. We haven't even played 15 games in the league yet. Like, what the hell is going on? And of all teams, the Edmonton Oilers with the two best players in the league on the same team. So listen, you can't just say, well, we just got our first coach fired. No. This is a big deal. This is a team that a lot of people thought was going to go to the National Hockey League Stanley Cup Finals, and their coach is gone after 15 games. That's a big deal, man.
It's a big deal, buddy. You're right. And but I'm not surprised. Unfortunately for Jay Woodcroft, I think he's a good hockey person, but he got caught in the crosshairs of two of the best players in the league that were underachieving big time, in Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid.
Whoa.
But
Whoa.
I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the year if Connor McDavid is leading the league in scoring. I'm telling you right now.
Did you just say that Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl were underachieving?
Well, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious.
Really? I think the rest of their team is underachieving. I think the rest of their team sucks.
Well,
I think the rest of their team has done everything that they possibly can, again, to show that there's no secondary scoring. And I'm telling you, you cannot ever blame Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl for Jay Woodcroft getting fired.
100% you can. Are you kidding me? JR, when you're talking about secondary scoring, they only have two lines. They're not getting scoring from their third and fourth lines. It was the same way last year. So if
Connor McDavid was hurt for 10 days. So
if Leon and Connor are not producing, this team does not win. They are not built like Vegas. They are not built like Los Angeles.
So if it's Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid's fault, why don't you just trade them?
Because you can't trade them.
Why can't you trade them?
Really?
You're calling them out, and you're blaming them for them being fired, for Jay being fired.
That's because they were doing nothing the first 4 weeks of the season. Connor McDavid was 60th in goal score in points. Leon Draisaitl was 27th. Unless these two guys perform and produce, this team does not go anywhere.
That's one of the most unfair things I've ever heard. And
very fair.
It's not fair because
it might not be fair, but it's a reality.
Because by the way, this team. The only reason this team has been good, and the only reason this team has gotten to the third round, and the reason this team has made the playoffs is because of those two guys. So exactly. You can't say and by the way, they cannot be that bad that a coach gets fired after 15 games. No, the coach got fired because he made a bad decision to change the way that the team plays and change of their defense and go from a man-on-man to a box to a box system.
Okay? I agree with that. We've talked about that. I agree 100%.
Yeah, exactly. So you go from a man-on-man, which the team does pretty well on, and they're rolling. They have last year. You had Nugent Hopkins had an amazing year. So obviously he feels better about himself. So he's taking this year off. You have Evander Kane who's too busy arguing with the coach and his ice time rather than playing the game the proper way. And I can't even think of 3 or 4 other guys on the team. Fogle, maybe. What's the other guy from Toronto?
Zach Hyman.
Zach Hyman. Those guys are invisible. I'm blaming the other guys again. And by the way, sometimes your top guys are going to be your top guys. It's up to other people to pick up the slack. They didn't pick up any slack.
Well, unfortunately, not unfortunately, it's the reality of this business. A lot of people are also putting the blame on Ken Holland, and I'm a big Ken Holland fan. But the problem is, I get your point, but I'm telling you, it's been this way for the last 3 years.
All right, let's see if one of our guests, one of our listeners will agree with your Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl reason for Jay Woodcroft getting fired, because I'm shocked. I mean, we talked before, but the fact that you were going to say that those guys are to blame it's crazy to me. Keenan, what's up, buddy? What's going on, pal?
Hey boys, how's it going today?
Keenan, so listen, you're an Edmonton fan, right?
Yeah.
Jay Woodcroft just gets fired, and my great friend Tim Peel says it's Connor McDavid's and Leon Draisaitl's fault. Your thoughts?
No, I cannot. Or it is not their fault. I mean, yeah, they haven't been producing, but they haven't been producing to their standards. That's the thing. Their standard, if they were on like any other, or if they had like say another team or less of the players that they are, we wouldn't even notice. Like no one would even notice, or no one would even care. We need depth. We need depth down our bottom 6. I can agree with that. Our defense, a little bit shaky, but I mean, and yeah, as I talked about last week, our goaltending subpar. However, Skinner has played a good last 2 games here, and I'm excited to see, looking forward, like tonight's game is really going to be the true test if it's just a New York Islander mishap or Seattle. I mean, we played great. We came out firing on all cylinders against Seattle. Hyman, like you've mentioned Hyman invisible. You got a hat trick that first period, JR. I mean, it was great to see.
Hey, listen, I'm glad he had one good game. But again, it becomes a constant. You have to get a constant. You have to become consistent, right? And listen, and Tim, this is why No Filter is great, because we bring on guests that know exactly what's going on in the game, and they have great insight. And Keenan, your insight is amazing on this aspect.
The thing is, JR, and I get Keenan's point, but the problem is if they were on any other team, but they're not. And a week ago when we did the show, and I know he's moved up since then, but Connor McDavid was 60th in scoring, 60th in the league. Connor McDavid, I think everybody agrees around the National Hockey League, is the best player in the National Hockey League. Okay.
Correct.
He was underperforming. I think, and another thing, I think that the players quit playing for Jay Woodcroft. I think they saw the writing on the wall. I think that
how can you stop playing for Jay Woodcroft? He's one of the nicest guys on the planet. The guy has not a mean. Doesn't have a mean bone in his body. Did they stop? Did they stop playing for him because he went to a man-on-man defensive style system?
There's been lots of nice coaches, JR, that have been fired. Mike Kitchen was a great assistant coach for Joel Quenneville.
That's not what I asked you. I understand there's been a lot of good guys fired, but why would the players stop playing for a guy that is as good a guy as Jay Woodcroft?
Well, I don't think they didn't initially stop playing, but what happened is they're not getting goaltending. Their defense wasn't playing very well. Your two top guns weren't performing to what we expect, and it just started to snowball. And then all of a sudden, it was like
the players literally threw Jay Woodcroft under the bus, and it's such a short coaching stint that he got. Keenan, your thoughts? Keenan, what are your thoughts?
We've lost Keenan.
We lost him? Okay, we got to kick him out of here. I think he lost connection.
And the other thing is, JR, and we got to touch on this. So they bring in Chris Knobloch. This is his first job as a head coach in the National Hockey League. He was an assistant coach with Philadelphia. He was the head coach in Hartford this past season. Chris Knobloch was Connor McDavid's coach back in junior. The person that hired him was Jeff Jackson. Jeff Jackson is the president of the Edmonton Oilers. Jeff Jackson got brought on 2 years ago as the president of the Oilers. He also was Connor McDavid's agent. Edmonton, Jeff Jackson, they are trying to do everything they can to keep the golden boy, to keep Connor McDavid happy. Let's bring in Edmonton's like, let's bring in Jeff Jackson, his former agent, to be the president. Let's bring in Chris Knobloch, his junior hockey coach, to be the coach. They are doing everything they can to keep him happy because they know that in 2 years, if he leaves, their franchise is in serious, serious trouble, bud.
Yeah, the captain, Ron Johnson, says, we've seen coaches that should have done better, but they were so nice that it was way too easy to let them go. Is that the same situation with Jay Woodcroft?
You know what? That's a great point that he just brought up because I mentioned last week when Bouchard from Edmonton made a bad pinch, resulted in a go-ahead goal, made it 4-2 when the score was 3-2 at the time. And it was a mistake. Like it was a big mistake in the game. And he was out the next shift later. And I mentioned that in the show last week. Like, I'm sorry, Jay, but you gotta be a you know what? You gotta be a prick sometimes, and you gotta sit the guy and sit him down for a shift.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen in this game anymore. And Chris Blaine said Kenny Holland is the problem. The problem, Blainer, I understand that aspect, but I think Kenny Holland is just a staple. He's a totem pole out there. I don't think he has anything to do with what the team's doing right now. You know who has everything to say in this team? Connor McDavid, Knobloch, and Jackson. Jeff Jackson, yep. That's it. And Connor McDavid, the fact that Connor McDavid said, "Oh, I didn't know that they were going to hire Knobloch as a coach," is so full of crap. It's unbelievable. Come on. I mean, Connor, like you might be like shy and kind of maybe naive, but we're not naive. We know exactly why Knobloch is the coach of your team is because he was your coach in juniors. Like, don't insult our intelligence in this aspect.
Maxton brought in a coach that's never coached in the NHL as a head coach. Do you think he brought him in to coach Connor McDavid without consulting Connor McDavid?
It's really brutal. I mean, don't insult our intelligence.
But you know what? It wouldn't surprise me. I'm telling you right now, it would not surprise me if this team went on a run. They looked. You and I talked about it when I said the other week that Connor McDavid was aging in front of our eyes. This may rejuvenate that tegame.
Of course they're going to make a run. They got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, the same guys that you just blamed for getting Jay fired. That's exactly why they're going to play. They're going to get this thing back on the rails. Listen, they have one thing going for them, and it's really early in the season. They can put a good run on. They can make the playoffs, and once you make the playoffs, anything can happen. It's way too early to really get really crazy, which is why I'm really shocked that Jay Woodcroft did get the axe. I know Jay. He was my assistant coach in San Jose. He's a very smart hockey guy. We were all singing his praises last year in the playoffs when the team played well. And it's not much of a different team this year than last year. And then all of a sudden it's Jay Woodcroft's fault. No. You know whose fault it is? It's the players' fault. It's the players' fault 100% why this team is not winning. And Jay took the hit. But it's not Connor's fault. It's not Draisaitl's fault. It's everybody else on the team's fault.
This may not be a popular opinion amongst GMs and so on and presidents of clubs. I don't think it's the players' fault, and I don't think it's the owner's fault. Listen to me.
Hold on. I wish I could swear on this podcast right now. The fact that you're sitting here, Tim, and telling me you don't think it's the players' fault is an absolute catastrophe of
this team is not good enough to get to the third round again and the Stanley Cup Finals. They don't have a third and fourth line. I'm telling you, I've listened, I've watched them. I've been to games in St. Louis watching the Edmonton Oilers. I was sitting with your one of your old teammates, Jamal Mayers, or maybe you didn't play with him in San Jose, but Jammer and I were at an Oiler game last year. We're sitting there watching the game, and both of us said, this team is not built to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. They are not good enough on the third and fourth line. You can't.
Nick just said Leon Draisaitl gets traded. Do you believe him? Do you agree with him?
They're going to do everything they can for him not to get traded. They want to keep those two. That's their team. They don't have a third and fourth line. That team is not going to win, bud. I'm telling you right now.
But then why does the coach get fired because of those two?
Because Kenny Holland's not going to fire himself, right? He's not going to fire himself, and you can't make a big trade in this day's salary cap constrictions and so on. It's not like years ago where you saw these blockbuster deals of 3 or 4 players. It's the GM is not going to get fired. It's the coach that's going to get fired. It's the same way with every team in the NHL. The GM is not getting fired. It's going to be 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the coach. You and I both know that. If St. Louis starts to go in a fall, you think Doug Armstrong's getting fired? No, Craig Berube's getting fired. That's just the nature of the business. That's the way it is. We should talk.
I'm looking. Zach Hyman's got 8 goals. I apologize for giving it to Zach Hyman. He's got 8 goals. He's been playing pretty well.
Yeah, he's playing better.
But on top of that, it's like, okay, got Draisaitl 13 points. I mean, listen, I hate the whole situation. I feel bad for Jay Woodcroft. Team needs to be better. If I was Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid, I would hope to God that they decide that Edmonton trades me, because to deal with this same crap every single year of not getting any support is got to be getting old for both of those guys. And you know what's funny? I actually listened to a good friend of mine, Sean Avery, to his podcast, and he said, "Does Connor McDavid look like an old man already at 25 years old? He's just been brought through the ringer of stuff." Let's go to Trevor. Let's go to Trevor. Let's go to Trevor on the guest list here. But
I said last week, I said he's aging like Benjamin Button in front of our eyes. Like
there he is. What's up, Trev?
What's up, JR? I feel like I haven't seen you in forever.
I know. Here we are. We are back. We are flying high on nofilter.net. Snipes and Stripes with my boy Timmy Peel. Timmy just really blew my socks off.
Yes.
With an absolutely just a crazy and by the way, this is why I love the show, because you know that's his opinion, and it was a great opinion. It was a great line. I'm just going to disagree with him. Did Jay Woodcroft get fired because of Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid?
No, their whole team's been horrendous. They have no goaltending. That's NHL quality. Their defense has been horrendous. So it's not Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. It's the rest of the players and management.
Yeah, or can we just say that Jay Woodcroft did it to himself because he changed the whole system?
Yeah, and also getting rid of Tyson Barrie was the biggest mistake ever.
Well,
Like, he was
could have been.
he was carrying that power play, and their power play has been horrendous this year as well. So
Horrendous.
That was Kenny Holland's mistake going for Ekholm, right?
That's a great. Yeah, it's a great call by you.
At the time, Trevor, I liked the Ekholm pickup.
Mhm.
Big defenseman, plays hard, plays a lot of minutes. I don't know. I don't know who your team is, Trevor.
This is a great transition. This is a great transition. Let's transition off of Edmonton, and because I'm sure, Trevor, you're a Chicago fan, right? You're a Chicago Blackhawks fan.
Philadelphia Flyers, I've always been
Philadelphia
a fan of.
Flyer fan, and by the way, another Philadelphia Flyer fan.
Plus, I live in South Florida, so the current watch is where will Patrick Kane land right now? Because he's about to.
I had this conversation this morning on my other podcast, which is After the Whistle with Greg Rivet and Andrew Peters, which is a great podcast. I highly suggest everybody go watch every Wednesday morning myself at 9:00 Eastern time with After the Whistle with Craig Rivet, Andrew Peters. But we talked about Patrick Kane. I know this is a little bit off of our topic, but that's what happens, Tim, when we get our great guests like this. I'm kind of thinking he's got to go to some place that's going to have a chance to win. There's no way that Patrick Kane goes to a place where he's going to lose. Everybody says Buffalo, his hometown. Why is he going to go to Buffalo and lose all the time? That team is a loser team. That's all.
It's a loser culture.
It's a loser culture, and they showed it again last night. Okay, with Kyle Oposo playing his 1,000th game, and the Boston Bruins come into town, into their own building, the number one team in the Eastern Conference, and one of their arch rivals. And what do? They come and they don't even show up to start the game. It's 3-0 before 10-minute mark. It's a joke of a team right now. And we had this conversation this morning. The Buffalo Sabres don't get it, so Patrick Kane's not going there.
I think he'll either go to two places: the Dallas Stars.
That's what I said this morning.
I think it's perfect there. Also, the second best American hockey player played there as well, Mike Modano. He'll be perfect mold there.
First player. He's the number one best player, U.S. born player ever.
I'm sorry, I put JR number one in my book. That's why, not to be a homer. That's why. So I think he'll go there, or the Panthers. I think the Panthers would be perfect to put him in that slot with the wing and stuff.
What would you say if I told you the L.A. Kings?
That would be intriguing. Be very intriguing. It'd also be kind of weird for me to see him in silver and black, but I'll be cool with that, honestly.
Would it be absolutely crazy to say that he goes to the Vancouver Canucks?
Yes, I don't think you'll go to a Canadian market. I think he wants to go to a market where there's no state tax. I think Dallas or South Florida.
Trevor, listen, you had me until there. He does no state tax is not going to get Patrick Kane to whether he's going to sign with a team or not. He's got more money than all of us.
Okay, how about this one?
I like LA a lot. I like LA a lot. I like Florida a lot. I hadn't heard Florida before. I really like Dallas. Can he fit into Toronto? I don't think so. I like the other three teams you guys just mentioned.
Hey, Captain Johnson, he says he won't go to Canucks because he wants to win. You don't think the Canucks have a chance to win this year? They have been blowing teams out, and Rick Tocchet has got that team going like crazy. But how about this one? And listen, I'm saying this on a telling you I don't know what the cap situation is. What about Las Vegas Golden Knights?
That will be the craziest.
Could you imagine if Patrick Kane goes to the Las Vegas Golden Knights?
They always seem to be able to fit people in somehow. So
everybody wants to go play for the Knights. It's the best place to play in the National Hockey League. It's the most exciting place to play in the National Hockey League. It's the most exciting town. It's some of the best travel. Why wouldn't you want to play in Vegas?
100%.
Also, you're the number one story of the town all the whole time, anyways, and no one's gonna hound you like media, like Toronto, with a microphone in your face every day.
So have you guys seen a game in Las Vegas yet? It's like a nightclub with a hockey game going.
Yes, I went the first year when the Flyers went out there. I did Phoenix, and I drove to Vegas with my uncle, and we drove out to Vegas and stuff. So
Captain Ron likes my pick of the Vegas. They need another finesse guy. I'm telling you.
JR, I refereed a lot of Vegas games. Very guilty. I'll just leave it
I
at
thought I
that.
thought you got suspended or you got sat when you drank the night before the game. Oh, you just did that quietly, huh, Tim? Is that right?
I think he did it quietly. So you want to get it.
Hey, so
by the
Trevor,
boys.
Trevor, while you're here, I do have to say I'm very impressed with the way the Flyers have played this year. I did not give them this much credit to be as competitive as they have been.
Yeah.
And I think it's really, really cool. Chris Blaine says Kings came to the Wings. I kind of see that too, by the way, with going in there and playing with his old teammate, the guy he just loves playing with, and he played there as a kid. Don't be surprised if Kane ends up in Detroit. That could be a really good call, Blainer. But back to the Flyers.
Yes.
Playing more like Flyer hockey, right?
Yes. I will say this. After taking a sabbatical off last year because I wanted the GM gone, Chuck Fletcher, I appreciate the move of Keith Jones and Danny Briere. They finally got it back to what a Flyer hockey team is. You play all 3 periods. You check. You score goals. You may have to fight here and there, but they have like quality pieces in there finally.
Yeah, I really agree.
Scott Walker too.
Yeah, I really agree.
And Sean Couturier back as well.
They start.
Well, he needs to play some good. He needs to play better hockey, and the goaltending needs to make sure it stays up to par. But I think there's no question that Briere is bringing it back. Keith Jones is going to bring it back, and Tortorella is going to make sure they play the right way. Okay, buddy, I'm gonna have to let you go, Trev. Good to see you, my friend. Hey, I don't know if you're looking at the chat line right now, Tim, but there's a lot of really good things being said on the chat line. Vegas only has 5.7 million on the cap, no cap space. Keenan says that. Showtime in Hollywood. Alec Abel says it's pretty. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see where Patrick Kane wants to drop his hat at. But is he still got enough?
I don't think he's got a lot left. Like I you know what? It pains me to say that, but I don't think he's got anything left, JR. I saw him in New York last year. He made no difference to the Rangers. I think there's a lot of hype because it's Patty Kane. I get it. The guy deserves it. He's won 3 cups. Amazing player, one of the best players ever from American born, Hall of Famer. I get all that, but I don't think he's got any. I don't think he's fat. Listen, I don't think he's fast enough for the game anymore. Is he smart enough? Absolutely. We know his skill set. We know all that. But just watching him in the playoffs last year for New York, I just don't think he's got anything left in the tank, buddy. And
listen, that's okay, especially after a big time surgery. I mean that very well could be. Only time will tell, right? Only time will tell. See what happens. But we talked about the Buffalo Sabres. Why? Like, there's a problem. There's a problem in the league when a team doesn't show up for a game against the Boston Bruins when one of your teammates is playing 1,000 games, and a team that just doesn't seem to have any heart. And I know you wanted to chat a little bit about the Buffalo Sabres, but what is it about these guys today that there's just no inner anger or inner drive or inner fire that allows them to come in and know who they're playing? Like the Buffalo Sabres are playing the Boston Bruins, the number 1 team in the East Coast. If there's ever a time to get on a roll, to get the team together and to play behind their captain, Kyle Okposo, for his 1,000th game and go out and trounce the Bruins, and they were down 3-0 by the 10-minute mark.
And Kyle Okposo is beloved by his teammates. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever read.
Well, they didn't show it for him.
No, I know. That's what my point is. And the 2 things happened and then to throw salt in the wound, Tage Thompson's out for a significant period of time. It's I hate to say it, but this loser mentality that you talked about, it's almost like it's accepted in certain organizations. And I saw a play last night where Rasmus Dahlin, very clean check, stood up Brad Marchand. Great clean check, but knocked Brad on his rear end. It was like a pack of Wolves came and attacked Rasmus Dahlin from Boston. Boston,
Yeah.
you and I talked about it last week with Toronto having to have a team meeting because to address team toughness. It's either a culture that is built into your franchise and your organization. You either have it or you don't. And the same thing last night in Winnipeg. Nicholas Ehlers very rarely fights.
Fights. He doesn't even know what fight. He can't even spell fight, let alone fight.
And Brendon Smith from New Jersey plasters a Winnipeg forward from behind. Could have been 5 in a game, but a boarding penalty. Ehlers comes in, flying in, and fights the guy. I like that team toughness. I don't see that with a lot of other teams. And Buffalo just seems to me it's that organization, and maybe Ottawa will turn it around too. But you and I and every other hockey pundit in North America said this year Buffalo and Ottawa were ready.
We're gonna bring on another pundit here onto the show and see what this pundit has to say. I'm sure he's going to have something to say about Detroit, but I agree with you. It drives me absolutely crazy to watch the Buffalo Sabres give absolutely nothing. What's up, Chris Blaine?
There's my boy, Jay. What's up, buddy?
Don't be
Hi,
afraid
Tim.
to turn on a light so we can see that handsome face of yours.
Well, I'm trying to enjoy some alone time, if you know what I mean.
Too much information.
No, hey, listen, I'm just jumping in real quick. I love the show. Jay and I have been friends for a long time. Tim, it's
Obviously, you don't love the show that much.
I wanted to rip you guys because last week you guys made picks. Tim, you picked my Red Wings to beat Montreal. Jay, you picked Ottawa to beat Vancouver. You both lost, and what's great for me is I went the opposite of you guys with my guy, and I'm making so much cash going opposite of your guys' picks.
I think you've been drinking a little bit too much because I won my pick last week. Because you know what I said? I think I picked Columbus to beat somebody out of the ordinary. I was like a plus 160, and I won my bet last week.
No, you had Ottawa to beat Vancouver at home, coming home to make a comeback. They got smoked, and Tim took the Red Wings against Montreal. So,
by the way, isn't this great that our guests and our viewers know better than we do, Tim, what we pick? It's just awesome.
Well, I just know that because I won. So I'm tuning in because I can't wait to hear tonight's picks. But
we're going to give you some at the end of the night.
All right, so answer me this question.
Yes.
What's wrong with your Detroit Red Wings right now?
They're slumping a little bit, but hey, they bounced back the other night. I was down at the rink on against Columbus. They won. They're in overseas now for the next two. These two games are big. Ottawa, Toronto, back to back in Europe, right? They're over there, and this is a big 2-game stretch for the boys. They're playing hard, man. It's Stevie's got them.
What would, as a Detroit Red Wing fan, what would it be? What would it mean if Patrick Kane went and played for Detroit? Because that's one of the kind of like the topics of Patrick Kane.
Well, the fans would love it, right? Because of the star power, right? And DeBrincat and him together were awesome in the Chicago days. Now, does he still have something left in the tank? I don't know. Tim doesn't feel he does.
I don't think he does.
I'm not sure. Jay, do you think he's got something left in the tank to bring to the Wings?
I question. I would have said yes if I didn't watch him play in New York last year. I think the pace of the playoffs really got to him. I don't think he was effective. And now after a hip surgery and not playing for the last 5 or 6 months, I think it's going to be really difficult to step in at 38 years old and be able to play the game at the level that he's going to have to be effective at.
Yeah, so that would be the concern. I'd love to see him here because I've always been a huge fan, but I don't know if he's going to help this squad. So we'll see. We've got a lot of young talent down in the minors that, I'm waiting to see pop up. But I think the Wings are still, a couple years away from being right there, but they're making strides this year, which I love.
All right, well, what's not going to be making strides is your bank account next week because our picks are going to win this week, so you go opposite because that's what we're going to do, okay, buddy?
I'm going to wait patiently for those picks, boys, and I appreciate it. I love the show, and thanks for bringing me on.
You're the best, Blainer. I'll see you later.
All right, bye.
That's so disrespectful, isn't it? So disrespectful.
Hey,
but
listen.
I think he has a point. But I don't know if that was last week or the week before that happened. I thought we were pretty good last week. I might have been wrong, but I thought I picked a good one last week. But that's beside the point.
Listen, we got to touch on this, obviously, on a serious note, because you would never say, hey, I was right, blah, 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 blah. But we had different opinions of the Adam Johnson play in England that unfortunately resulted in him passing away. And Matt Petgrave came out yesterday, has been arrested and charged with manslaughter. Doesn't mean that he's going to be convicted of manslaughter. And you and I certainly aren't lawyers. We don't know what's going to happen, but
no, but he's going to be put in front of his peers to be decided on.
What are your thoughts on this news that came out, JR? It's
yeah,
it's tragic all the ways around, is what it is.
Yeah, you know what? It's really a sad day for hockey in every situation. Only one time in hockey has someone been charged for murder, and that was 1992 in the Italian League.
Yeah,
there was a gentleman that baseball batted somebody over the chest.
Yep.
And then that gentleman had a heart attack and died. That guy got charged with second-degree manslaughter. As much as I hate to say it, in sports where you have to make a decision, and it's a very difficult decision because sports is such a reactionary situation, and to do certain things that are not I think in the same realm of our everyday life. Sports is a very high-paced, action-packed, high-intensity, high-stress situation, and you only have a couple seconds to make a choice on what you do. And we don't see people get charged in sports because of this nature, because we know people are going to get hit. We know people are going to fight. We know people are going to do things that are out of the realm of our everyday life and what is expected of us in our everyday life. However, Matt Petgrave made a very, very bad decision to do something that was not a hockey-related play. He lifted his leg and his skate, which is a dangerous weapon, up to a head height position, which you and I know is never taught in the game of hockey. Never, since we've been taught as a little kid to play hockey, were we ever taught to lift our skate over not even the waist level, but even more so to the head level. Mm-hmm. It's not a hockey move. It's not a hockey play. It's dangerous. And to happen in a professional game, and I don't know what Matt Petgrave's mentality was.
Sure.
Was it to impede him? Was it to stop him? Was it to hit him? Was it to inflict pain? Whatever the case may be, he made that grave decision to lift his foot high enough to hit Adam Johnson's neck that caused him to pass away.
Yep.
That in itself is, to me, second-degree manslaughter. It is making a mistake that cost someone their life. And Matt Petgrave, unfortunately, has got to pay, I think, the consequences of what happens when you make a critically bad decision, which he did. He was not pushed. He was not tripped. This was not accidental. This was a decision that he made personally in the thick of a moment. Now, whether he's going to be charged or not and go into jail time or whatever, that's yet to remain to be seen by his peers. But I thought it was absolutely the right call by the authorities, at least to bring charges against him for making that decision to do something that is not a hockey move and does not belong anywhere on the ice, that cost a great man his life in Adam Johnson.
And I get your point, but guess what? There's been other incidents over the years, as far as going back to when Marty McSorley hit Donald Brashear in Boston. I think it was in Boston, with his stick. He's lucky Donald Brashear didn't die then, because Marty would have been facing different consequences. That was not a hockey play. We're talking, that was a stick to the head. That was vicious. It was retribution.
What happened to Marty? Did he get charged by the
He
police?
got charged, and I think he did. He got probation. So, you know what? I don't want to belabor. We don't want to belabor this point. It's a sad situation all around.
Okay, but like you didn't say whether you thought it was the right decision.
No, I think it's the right decision to charge him. I do. I from watching the video numerous times, the obviously, and I think we both agree, the intent wasn't to kill the guy, to kill Adam Johnson, but he definitely kicked his head up to inflict pain or to stop him, to punish him. I would take a little chance on an unknown caller here. So it might be my boy John, might be Nick. I don't know who it's going to be, but to Keenan, he just asked, did Todd Bertuzzi get charged when he hit Steve Moore? And the answer is yes, he got charged for that too.
Yeah, he got charged. Yeah. He got lawsuit, and I mean, it's pretty much everything, right? So
yeah,
it really is.
So listen, I've been taking some heat because we haven't talked about the St. Louis Blues, JR, and one of your favorite guys, Craig Berube, one of the toughest to ever play the game. Unbelievable. I was showing Bronson fights of Chief last year. I said, this is the coach of the Blues. And he's like, he couldn't believe that this nice looking guy behind the bench that, wearing a suit used to act like Chief was an animal, man. He was a madman.
Trust me. I know. He came out and attacked me and beat the crap out of me in Chicago Stadium after I ran into Ron Hextall. I know exactly what Craig Berube is all about. And he chased me down for 4 years after I punched him in the mouth because the referees had him in a headlock and I punched him.
That was a stupid mistake by you.
Yeah, it was, because he chased me for 5 years. For 5 years, he finally got me in the middle of the Flyers locker room before practice and gave me a shot to the mouth. I'm a huge Craig Berube fan. I think Craig Berube is amazing. I've been a little disappointed at the start of the season for the Blues, but I know they're starting to turn it around a little bit. They just don't seem to have anything that sparks my interest right now. Am I wrong?
You know what? It's a very valid point. I live here in St. Louis. We've gone 5-6 weeks. I'm not pro St. Louis. We haven't even talked about the Blues, but I watch them a lot. What they have, JR, unlike some teams, they have 4 solid lines. They put up 8 goals in Colorado a couple nights ago. They threw a 5-0 win over Tampa last night at home in St. Louis. I was a big Mike Van Ryn fan. Well, we got a St. Louis guy here. Can't wait to have you on, Captain Ron. But they brought Mike Van Ryn was the coach, the defensive coach when they won the cup. Unfortunately, they let him go this summer. They bring in Mike Weber, who played in the NHL. He's kind of changing things up. They're playing much more sound defensively. Binnington, JR, you probably haven't seen a lot of Blues games. Binnington has got a .930 save percentage.
He has to.
He just got a shutout last night, Jay.
Last night. He is playing awesome. You know what? I think this team is going to surprise a lot of teams over the next few months, JR.
Captain, great to have you on the show, my man. I love your backdrop. I'm reading all of your texts in the chat. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about either what we've been talking about or if you have something else you want to bring up with us, because we can go anywhere you want right now, Captain. What do you got? Where are you going?
Truth be told, I want to actually start out with basically sitting here just doing a little double ceremonial toast to Adam Johnson and his family. Thoughts and prayers to him. Awesome. When I talked about that one a couple of weeks ago on Bleacher Brothers, it was hard for me to go because I've been a hockey fan practically all my life, and I'm a St. Louis native, which makes it even better. So to be fair, I was probably one of the ones that was actually drunk on Market Street during the celebration a few years ago.
I love that.
I will attest to that. I'm not sure if they actually caught me on camera at the exact same time they caught Hull on camera drunk walking, but it was fun. It was fun regardless. I'm actually with you, Ronnie, on the very fact of the Blues. I will be honest. Like I said, I have been a lifelong Blues fan. I did not like how the season started, but I do like the fact that Berube decided to sit here and actually make some shifts, make some changes to the lineups and things like that. It seems to be working. I mean, this team literally was losing, and all of a sudden they've come around. They've beaten Arizona. They just pretty much returned the favor to the Avalanche, and basically sat here and slapped the taste out of their mouths and silenced all their fans in Denver yet once again, which I'll be happy about. Honestly, I loved it when the Kraken did it last year, and it's still one of my best, happiest moments. And then they just beat the Lightning. They shut out the Lightning, and if I'm mistaken, didn't the Lightning just win the Cup a couple of years ago?
They did. So, good point by you.
So for the Blues, I feel like this is a good turnaround for them, and I feel like they've actually been having that point of where they have not been given that kind of credibility or respect because of the fact this is the Western Conference. They are in the same conference as the defending Stanley Cup champs, which I'm happy about. Because honestly, Vegas has been deserving that thing for a good hot minute. I'm even happy for Pietrangelo to actually sit here and actually hoist up another cup. I'm happy for all my Blues, even Barbashev, to sit here and hoist up another cup.
Yeah, you know who I'm happy with? You know, I love Robert Thomas. I'm a big Robert Thomas fan.
Robert,
he's got so much pizzazz, and he's such a good kid, and he's finally getting his due of success. Which, I mean, there was a little time where he was struggling, but, you know, he's now leading the team with 16 points, got 6 goals. I like where I see Robert Thomas going right now.
It does feel like the chemistry is with these line shakes. It starts like that chemistry is more right there. And I know this is a big deal for Brayden Schenn because this is basically, he is the captain now. And respectfully, he's the captain. I'm not the captain on this one. But when it comes down to it, I'm hoping for success for Brayden, because I'm gonna be honest, Benner, he's always been cool hand Luke, so he's not gonna tell you when he's nervous or when he's PO'd or anything. But you can see it. You can see it. I can see it. We know when he's upset. We know when he's pissed off. But he's still that cool hand Luke guy. And the way that he and Hoff are trying to actually sit here and get that goaltending back to sync, the way the line shakeups and everything else. I do expect great things. I expect the Blues to turn to the playoffs a little more fierce than they have been. And the way that it honestly looks at it right now, I can't think of anything better than to sit here and have to the point where one of our matchups is going to be the Avs. Because quite frankly, my brother is an Avs fan, or as we've come to know him, he's an Avs hole. That's how they call their fans. They call their fans the Avs holes. So me being able to actually sit here and be in that, I actually want to see that. But the very fact.
Captain, you know what? You brought the goods, man. I love that you joined the show. I hope you love the show. I hope you continue to bring some of your thoughts, because we're going to bring you on all the time.
I postponed I sat here and cut my show because I had the college football playoff to talk about like an hour before yours, but I wanted to be able to cut it short just so I can sit here and actually come to this one. I'll keep it 100. I'll be honest.
Boy, I love it. Hey, we appreciate it, my friend. You're a good man.
Love you guys.
Awesome.
You know what, JR?
What a great guest. What a great guest. Yeah, that was fantastic.
Captain Ron. You know what? Just watch St. Louis over the next few weeks. I think they're going to surprise you a little bit. I said, they've got 4 solid lines. Their goaltending's been impressive. Last year, their backup goaltender was Thomas Greiss, and all due respect to Thomas Greiss, you know, he had a great.
He's a career second backup, so I get it.
Career little tidbit for you: the backup goaltender for the St. Louis Blues is a kid by the name of Joel Hofer. He actually roomed when he played in Portland in the Western League. He roomed with Ian Walsh, one of the referees that I worked with for a number of years. Ian was his billet. And Ian praises this Joel Hofer. So they've got 2 good goaltenders in St. Louis. Parenko scored last night. They've got a good team. So a team that's disappointed me in that division is Minnesota. And you and I both love Billy Guerin. He's under some cap restrictions right now because he bought out Suter and he bought out Parise. And they've actually had some games where they've had to only dress 17 players. But I'm a little disappointed. Kaprizov hasn't brought it this year. People are saying he might be hurt. I don't know what's going on with Minnie. Dallas is obviously the cream of the crop.
All right, so this is what I would love to go to. I would love to go to because we got to get to the referee aspect of this show. We had my boy Gallagher in Montreal absolutely rip apart the referees and the call that they made in the third period the other day. And I got to agree with them. This is not the place to call a half-ass penalty call when it's a one-goal game in the third period. And we don't have the clip to show people here, but kind of explain to everybody what happened in that game and why Gallagher is so pissed off at the referees. And were the referees right?
And Brendan Gallagher very rarely speaks out. And I remember probably the last 5 years of my career, I'd go up to him because he takes a lot of crap from the media, from opposing teams. Like, he's a small guy. And I'm like, Gally, I love the way you play, man. Like, you put your,
How can you not love the way Brendan Gallagher plays the game?
Plays it hard,
heart and soul.
And so there was a play last night in the third period of Calgary and Montreal with 3:31 left in the game. They're in their defensive end. The puck's behind the net. The Calgary player is kind of leaning up against the net. He falls down because his feet are hitting the back of the net. And Jake Brink, the low referee, is looking at the play, doesn't put his arm up, and Pierre Lambert is in the neutral zone, and he throws his arm up, and he can't see it. I know he can't see it from the neutral zone.
He can't see behind the net.
He can't see behind the net, and he throws his arm up. So they're short. They get a power play later on, but it was justified. But that takes the steam out of a team. The biggest.
Listen, can I ask you a question? I got two questions because I thought Gallagher brought up a really good point in this complaint. He said that the referee made the call because of the crowd cheer, the fans yelled and screamed. So let me ask you a question: do referees, or have you ever made a call by not seeing it because of the noise that the fans make? Because you can't tell me that they don't. Because I've seen referees that have not seen a call, and the fans go crazy, and all of a sudden the arm goes up. Have you seen it? Do you think it happens, or has it happened to you?
Absolutely, it's happened. It's happened to every referee, and it's happened to me. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. It's happened to me. You know, all of a sudden you're like, oh shoot, what did I miss? And it's unfortunate.
So you called a penalty without seeing it because of the fans?
Have I?
Yes.
No, I have not called. I have not called a penalty because I haven't seen it.
That's what Gallagher was claiming.
That's what Gallagher is saying. But Pierre Lambert didn't. He's not. I understand what Gallagher said, but Pierre Lambert, Gallagher can say that the ref reacted to the fans, but I don't believe that that's why Lambert reacted. First of all, the game's in Montreal, so why would the fans react? Because the play was against Calgary. Okay, so Lambert, though, the biggest thing you can't do as a referee, you can't guess. And if you're going to guess, you better guess in the first period. You better not guess in the third period with 3 minutes.
That's a great point.
3 minutes and 31 seconds to go, because I will tell you this, the NHL with Colin Campbell and Stephen Walken and right up the chain to Gary Bettman, they would rather you miss something late in the game because you just miss it than to call something that wasn't a penalty.
Wow.
And that team scores on the power play on a phantom penalty and they win the game because guess what? That GM is calling Walken and calling Coley going, that was not a penalty. We just lost the game because your referee guessed.
Okay, well, that brings me to a question that Andrew Peters this morning wanted me to ask you on this podcast. And so I am going to give all credit on this question to Andrew Peters because it comes right into what you were just talking about. And Andrew Peters asked me to ask you, are referees today, do they feel forced to make a call, or are they afraid to make a call and thinking of what kind of retribution or what kind of feedback they're going to get from the league. So in essence, it's almost a two-part question.
Yeah.
Do they feel that they have to make calls to live up to what the NHL brass is expecting of them? Or are they too afraid to make a call because of what kind of repercussions will come down from the National Hockey League? Because the National Hockey League and Gary Bettman and all those people, their fingerprints are all over the referees.
So I'm going to answer actually the second question first. I would say no to the second question,
which was
that they're not afraid to make calls. Like they're not afraid to step up and make a call.
Okay.
The first part, I would say yes to that question, and they're not going to like it.
You believe that they need to make calls to suffice the league. Correct.
And the reason I say that is because the league wants to maintain a standard throughout the season. And the biggest criticism that we would get over the past few years from the media driven, not player driven, media driven, was the NHL standard is slipping. As the season goes along, when the games become more important, the refs tend to let more things go. Gary hates that. Steven hates that. Coley. So our guys feel they have to maintain the standard throughout the year. And I'll give the guys credit last night in St. Louis. I think it was St. Laurent and I forget the other ref. I think there were 2 penalties against Tampa and 0 against St. Louis. So I give those guys credit because don't make stuff up just so that you can maintain this this standard throughout the season. There are some nights, as you know, we don't see any checks thrown in a game. It's pond hockey. It's up and down. If they're not doing anything, don't wake them up. Let them play the game.
Let them play.
But I remember the last couple of years of my career, I had games late in the year. I go, shit, we haven't got a penalty the whole game. And I'd look at my partner and go, we don't want a no-hitter here. Like, we don't want to go the whole game without a penalty, because if we do, the league's going to think that we're not calling the standard.
Hey, Nick, do you think the referees are afraid to make a call?
I don't think so. I kind of chimed in there on the chat there. I asked about, is there more pressure on the refs in the playoffs to potentially make or not make a call? You know, obviously.
That's a great call. That's a great question, Tim.
Nick, 100% there's more pressure, and I'll tell you why. Regular season, I call a penalty in St. Louis, and it's game 45, and Tampa scores in the power play. They win the game. You know what? People forget it the next day, 2 days later. The playoffs, every call is magnified. Every power play is magnified. Teams win and lose usually in the playoffs on special teams, penalty kill, and power play. So in the playoffs, if you're going to call a penalty, you better make damn sure that it's a penalty that the NHL thinks is an NHL quality penalty. Because if it's not, you're going to get crucified and you won't get out of the first round. You'll be sent home.
Shoot, I wouldn't know, Tim. Sabres don't make the playoffs, man.
That's a good point, buddy.
Hey, listen, hey Nick, we made mention now the Buffalo Sabres, and we'll make this really quick because we're almost at the end of time.
Yeah.
Showed no heart against the Boston Bruins and no gratitude towards their captain in his 1,000th game to even show up to play a game, and got absolutely trounced by the Boston Bruins. How does that make you feel as a Buffalo Sabre fan?
It's rough, man. It really makes you kind of question the leadership in the locker room. I heard you on after the whistle. I only got to listen to about half the pod on the drive today. I'll probably listen to the other half tomorrow. But, you mentioned like who's going to step up and be that leader. I honestly don't see one in the locker room. I really don't. You brought back the exact same team that you had last year, brought in a young goalie, who you're expecting to be the savior of the franchise. And I don't think he's ready for that. And, they need something extra, and they just don't have it. And it's
pretty crazy, man.
Mediocre Buffalo. Like,
let me ask you this question, Tim. I'm gonna ask Nick this question, and then I'm gonna let him go, and I want you to ask this question too. answer this question. Is it okay for a 22-year-old in Rasmus Dahlin, who now makes over $10 million a year, who's an all-star, who is not vocal, and he doesn't speak English is not his first language? Is it out of the question or bad to have a guy like Rasmus Dahlin stand up in the middle of the room and yell at his players to get the hell going? Or is it not in his DNA and he should, because he's young, not say anything? Nick.
So personally, I don't think it's in his DNA.
But does it have to be in his DNA?
It shouldn't have to be. It's just like the same thing in the media.
Should he do it or should he not do it?
Absolutely, he should be. He's probably one of the longest tenured Sabres on the team, minus Okposo.
So you think he has the right to stand up and yell at his teammates and saying, "Get the F going, boys. This is BS, man."
I don't care if you're an 18-year-old on the team or you're the oldest guy in Okposo on the team.
Why? Tell me why.
That's leadership 101. You play.
What if you're young and you haven't paid your dues yet?
You got to do something to get the team going.
Amen. Amen. Nick, you're the best. Amen, Nick. That a boy.
JR, that's a great point you just brought up about, you used the word pay your dues. You had to pay your dues when you got in the league. That's the way it was. And you know what? That wasn't a bad thing. You had to wait a few years before Jeremy Roenick could stand up in the dressing room and give his 2 cents and be a leader. That was kind of the way it was. I don't think that's the way it is now. I think whether you're 20 or 28 or 32, if you're a young player and you got the jam and you've got those leadership qualities, you should stand up in the room.
Stand up.
100%.
And by the way, I don't care if you're 22, 34, 52, or 4. There has to be a point in your gut where you are so mad at losing that you don't even give a rat's ass what anybody thinks in there. Somebody's got to stand up and say, enough is enough, boys. Let's start playing.
I agree, buddy. I agree.
Okay, so we're at the end of the show. Do you want to say something else real quick before?
Hold on. Because not that you've been hard on him, but because of the hype and so on. Connor Bedard, you gave him a C, I think, a couple weeks ago.
C plus after 6 games. Yes. Okay.
He's got 13 points in his last 13 games. What do you give him now, Jared?
So I'm giving him an A plus right now because he's scoring goals.
I love it.
I'm giving him an A plus right now because he's scoring goals. He's playing well. He's having fun playing. Even though the team's not winning, he's showing leadership as the person that we expect him to see.
Exactly.
And the reason why he's doing that is because he's having fun.
Yeah.
I think the pressure is off him because the media, if you go to NHL.com, you don't see Connor Bedard as the first picture on NHL.com. On NHL Network, he's not the first guy that they lead off on. The media is finally leaving this kid alone and letting him play hockey and have fun. Well, and I'm so happy that they have done that, because look what he's doing right now. He's playing with confidence. He's scoring goals. He's got Chicago energized. Now the rest of the team's got to come along and play with him.
And I get that the league did it this way. His first 5 games, Chicago or Boston, New York, Montreal, Toronto, Pittsburgh opening night. He was put up on this high mountain right off the bat in all the top cities. So good for him.
Good for him. Exactly. Good for Connor Bedard. Good for the way he's handling it. Good for the media for leaving the kid alone. Leave the kid alone. He's going to be a superstar.
You know what some of these teams are? Hold on. You know what some of these teams are missing? They're missing a guy like Nick Foligno, who I absolutely love.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Bedard gets hit Sunday or Monday in Florida. What does Foligno do? He comes right over to, I think, Kulikov and is like giving them the business.
Okay. Yeah. I love Connor Bedard, but I would like Bedard to stick up for himself too. I haven't seen his face change one time. I have never seen a facial expression on Connor Bedard change. I want to see a little bite out of him. I want to see him turn around and slash somebody in the back of the legs and tell him to F off.
Yeah.
Connor Bedard has not had any emotional or verbal bite in his game. You had Brad Marchand came after him. He got hit by Kulikov the other day. He's going to get faced with people in his face.
Matthew Tkachuk gave it to him a bit.
And if he just continues to sit there and just turn around and skate away and not show some bite and some aggression and some anger,
he'll get abused.
He's going to get abused.
Yeah.
So I want Connor Bedard to get a little angry and little bite and a little mean streak in him and start chopping some people. Because if people are going to chop Connor Bedard, he should be able to protect himself to a certain point. Yes, of course, everybody else is going to because it's Connor Bedard. But Connor Bedard cannot have the blank baby face every time somebody says something to him. He doesn't change. I don't like that. So I'm hoping that changes with Connor Bedard. We'll see what happens. Okay. Bet online. Listen, you're going to make a bet. You want the best odds. You want the best projections. You want to know where to go to make your bets. Bet online is the best place to go. We are going to make bets about tomorrow, Thursday. Tim Peel, who is your best pick for tomorrow for Bet Online? The best pick of the day for Snipes and Stripes from Tim Peel is?
This might surprise you, buddy, but I've got Arizona. They're in Columbus. I've watched probably 5 of Arizona's games. I love how they're playing. I'm going to pick the Arizona Coyotes over the Columbus Blue Jackets in Columbus tomorrow.
I like that call. That's amazing. I'm going to go a little bit more risque. I'm going to take the Calgary Flames over Vancouver. I think Vancouver's been on an absolute run right now. Calgary is starting to show little signs of life. I think they're going to be at home. I think they're going to take advantage of another Canadian team being close. I am going to take Calgary tomorrow against Vancouver. It's very unpopular. I know they're going to be underdogs, but I think for your money, Calgary is going to be the best bet.
Buddy, I don't know if I would take that one, and I'll tell you why. Now, I'm not a big fan of his, and I don't think it's a secret, but Nazem Kadri came out today and said, I do not want to be around for a rebuild if this team's going to rebuild and Craig Conroy.
You know what? No, I don't give a crap what Nazem Kadri wants to say. Nazem Kadri is going to play no matter what the situation is.
Well, he's not playing very well, so.
Well, hey, Blainer says they're going to the Jackets and going to the Canucks. Good luck, Blainer. Listen, everybody, thanks again for another great show of Snipes and Stripes on NoFilter.net. It's been a great Wednesday. Make sure you tune in again next Wednesday. Everybody, thank you again for jumping on to our chat line, for joining in on the knock button. I'm sorry if I didn't get to everybody, but our guests that we did have tonight, Tim, were amazing. You were amazing, and you started it off with a bang tonight. So well done, my friend. Good job.
Good job, buddy. Thanks again. Great show, and love you, and we'll see you next week.
All right, everybody. It's another episode of Snipes and Stripes on NoFilter.net. We will see you next week again, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. It's been a blast. We'll see you next week.